Tensions between Canada and the U.S. remain high. Meanwhile, discourse in the U.S. remains polarized. Here in Canada, a recent poll from Research Co. found that this country may be inching closer to U.S.-style political polarization itself. With us in studio is someone who has a lot to say about building bridges across political lines. Cornel West is an educator, philosopher, and civil rights activist. He has a new book out with his close friend Robert P. George, Truth Matters, a dialogue on fruitful disagreement in an age of division. He's also giving a lecture this evening for SFU's Center for Comparative Muslim Studies. It's called Where Do We Go From Here? The Future of Justice and Solidarity. Cornel West, welcome to Vancouver.
I'm very blessed to be here. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
We appreciate you coming in. It has been a rough year for people who share some of your political values, people on the left. But you've been going around talking about future and hope and building bridges. Why?
Well, part of it is it's just a matter of trying to keep alive some legacy committed to integrity, honesty, and decency in a moment of such overwhelming organized greed and weaponized hatred. And this is not new. This is, as we know, this is a dominant moment in most of the history of the species. So we shouldn't be overwhelmed by it. And one of the reasons why I'm so very blessed to be in this consecrated city, because Vancouver really is a special place. I mean, I live in Harlem, New York City, and I love Harlem. But when I come here, good God Almighty, second time in my life, and it's just something very special about this place. I was telling my dear brother, distinguished professor there at Simon Fraser, his name is Adel Iskandar, and we're here to pay tribute to the great Edward Said. And he was somebody who was trying to keep alive a legacy of integrity, honesty, and decency in the middle of a highly polarized moment in his life. And so we're all cracked vessels, we're all fallible, but we got to somehow muster the courage to continue to try to tell the truth and seek justice no matter what the circumstances are.
You said Vancouver's a special place. Do you mean that, or is there something that you've noticed?
Yeah, it's the spirit of the people. You know, we were at the hotel last night and walk in and people want to take us to the jazz club, and the people are so kind, and I don't know what it is. I feel like I'm in Ghana. Ghana has that kind of a kind, sensitive culture. It could be that America is just so gangsterized that everybody's so upset with getting over and obsessed with the 11th commandment, thou shalt not get caught, that it generates a harshness that I don't find in Vancouver. Now, Vancouver has human beings like everybody else, so I know they got some gangsters and thugs like any other place, but it is a special place for me.
That's nice to hear. This weekend, people are trying to decide how to vote on Monday in Canada. And you hear people say things now like, I can't talk to them, or I can't invite them. Don't invite them. I don't agree with them. I don't like what they say. People really ending relationships over politics. What do you say about that?
Oh, one is I think we should always try to maintain our ability to stay in contact with other people's humanity. We ought to, I'm a Christian, so I try to love people. Love is not reducible to politics, and agreement on public policy is not reducible to one's humanity. So we should always be able to communicate and wrestle with our disagreements and be candid about where we disagree in that regard. And I think that that you would hope that people wouldn't kind of give up prematurely in trying to remain humanely connected to each other, not just politically connected to each other.
You say prematurely. Is there a line? Is there a time where you give up on someone you just disagree so much?
Well, that's a theological question. I must say that I think every judgment we make was in a particular context. You know, if I've got Nazis that I've got to come to terms with. I'll give you an example. I was with the very, very sick white Nazi brothers in Charlottesville in 2017. You know, they threatened to kill us and had the ammunition and the guns and their mask and so forth. And they walked up to me and said, you know, you're that brother on television calling everybody brother. I said, that's right, brother. He said, don't you call me that. I said, I don't ask for anybody's permission as to who I love. I come out of a legacy that I'm a free man. I'm a Jesus-loving free black man. So I don't want to violate your rights or anything. But God loves you. God loves you, me too. And that you choose to be a gangster And I got gangster proclivities, but I'm trying to fight against it. I'm a redeemed sinner. And he even got more upset. So after a while, Socratic dialogue might not operate, but you try to push it as far as you can because people do change. Nobody's static and stationary. People change.
Our country and your country have lots in common. We share lots of culture, values. How do you explain to Canadians the reelection of President Trump?
Well, one of it is you have a spiritually sick country that worships the dollar and is obsessed with power and short-term gain. Then you have a political system that's corrupt because the big money dictates so often who the political candidates will be. And therefore you end up with a citizenry that is so not just frustrated, but feeling powerless and hopeless. And just like in Plato's Republic, right, when democracy begins to collapse, what happens? The strong man, the tyrant, the dictator emerges and said, I'll take care of this for you. And then it backfires, of course, because the dictator never delivers. And there's a sense in which that's what we're dealing with Trump, that he's a sign and a symptom. He's not the cause. He's a sign of a symptom of an empire in very, very deep spiritual decay and moral decadence, and the inability of enough citizens to feel as if raising their voices in organized matter can fundamentally make a difference. And so they end up with the typical kind of neo-fascist strategy, which is to what? Scapegoat the most vulnerable rather than morally, politically confront the most powerful. So you scapegoat the brown immigrants, you scapegoat precious trans, you scapegoat black folk, you scapegoat gay brothers, lesbian sisters, women, and so forth. And you end up where we are. And it's a very, very dark, dim and grim moment. But for black people in America, for the most part, it really has always been grim. We got 244 years of the most barbaric white supremacist slavery in the history of the world. And we got another 100 years of lynching. Every 2.5 days, some black man, a woman, a child was hanging from a lynching tree. So this is not new. It's just a new challenge. And we have to try to preserve our integrity and honesty and decency and bear witness.
So I think a lot of people think this is, people from the left at least think that this is kind of a low point. But I hear you saying there's a long history.
Oh, that's true. I mean, low. How low can you go? I mean, my great-great-grandfather was enslaved. Average slave died at 27 years old every generation for 244 years. I had a great-great-uncle who was lynched in a military uniform. So it depends on how low you can go. But I can say this, that Canada can always learn something from the best of America, or USA, and USA can always learn something from the best of Canada. See, when I think of the best of Canada, I think of Brother Harvey Lewis. I know that brother. He's a wonderful brother. I think of Sister Naomi Klein. I know that sister. She's a wonderful sister.
You're giving him a boost because he's a candidate in our election.
Well, he's been running for justice for a long time. He might be running for office, but anybody running for office, if they're not running for justice, then you ought to quit running. And he and Naomi and others, I mean, there's some others too, but those are two that immediately come to mind of persons who, that when I think of Canadian politics, I think of both of them. And Naomi, I mean, she's a, international public intellectual, tremendous power and potency.
So your talk is called "Where Do We Go From Here?" So where are you going next? What's next for you?
Well, I'm just running for justice just like them, really trying to be a force for good, trying to keep this love at the center of it. I fundamentally believe that justice is what love looks like in public. And therefore, I'm trying to keep a witness in place that zeroes in on poor people, working people. That means especially indigenous people in Canada, in the USA, given the settler colonial histories of both of those nations and empires. And at the same time, keep it in contact with the humanity of everybody, because people can be changed and transformed.